You feel the airplane change. The engines tone down, the cabin lights dim slightly. The seat buzzes as the wheels touch ground, or at least that's what you imagine when you worry about landing. The flight attendant's voice becomes clearer over the PA. The scent of coffee mixes with the faint ozone of the air conditioning system, and outside your window, the runway seems smaller than on takeoff. For many passengers, the landing is where control shifts from the smooth automation of cruise to the human choreography in the cockpit. Listen closely, because what pilots do in those final minutes is predictable, practiced, and designed to protect everyone on board. I'll walk you through the steps you'll hear and sometimes feel during descent and touchdown, tell you why a go-around happens, the real risk to your bags and connections if things go sideways, and the simplest actions you can take to improve safety and comfort. Start by imagining the last 30 minutes before landing. At home, before you leave for the airport, check your itinerary and connection windows, download your airline's app, and make sure your phone has enough battery to display a mobile boarding pass and gate updates. At the gate, confirm the expected arrival runway and whether the flight is on time. A quick glance at the airport's arrivals board or the airline app saves 2 minutes at the gate and helps you judge a tight connection. On board, preparation is mostly about your immediate environment. Before descent begins, stow loose items, lock your overhead bin, make sure larger carry-ons are fully closed and zipped, and move any fragile items out of overhead storage to under seat. Fasten your seatbelt as soon as the seatbelt sign comes on, and keep it snug around your hips, not across your stomach, because the belt's job is to hold your pelvis to the seat in an unexpected bump. Pilots start the official landing sequence long before you notice. Imagine a conductor building an orchestra. They don't just wave the baton at the final note. The flight crew runs checklists. They brief the expected runway, landing speeds, flap and slat settings, auto brake level, and go-around plan. There is a standardized checklist for descent, another for approach, and a final landing checklist. The autopilot will often manage much of the descent, adjusting throttles and flight path, but the pilots are monitoring instruments, communicating with air traffic control, and ready to fly manually. Analogy time. Think of landing like parking a large vehicle on a narrow driveway at night. The instruments are the headlights and rear-view camera. Flaps are your brakes that increase drag. The landing gear is the wheels you deploy at the last moment, and the runway is the driveway you must line up with while clearing trees and curb. A pilot balances speed and alignment. Too fast, and you risk floating past the touchdown zone. Too slow, and you risk stalling. Flaps change the wing shape to create more lift at lower speed. The spoilers dump lift on touchdown, and brakes and reverse thrust slow the airplane once down. Here are the core steps you'll hear or see during final approach, in the order they happen. 1. Descent clearance and briefing. You'll hear a calm radio exchange with ATC and possibly a short cockpit briefing over the intercom for the cabin crew. The pilots confirm runway, approach type, and the plan if things change. 2. Seatbelt sign on, cabin secured. Flight attendants finish stowing carts and make a final cabin check. If you're still standing, sit down and buckle up. This is the single best passenger action to reduce injury risk. 3. Flap and gear extension. Pilots set flaps in stages and lower the landing gear. You might feel a thump or hear a whine as the gear locks into place. 4. Final approach. The aircraft is aligned with the runway. The autopilot may fly this phase, but the captain monitors and can disconnect at any time. 5. Decision height or minima. At a predetermined altitude, the pilot must see the runway environment or execute a go-around. If visibility or alignment isn't safe, they will climb and try again. 6. Touchdown and rollout. Spoilers deploy, auto brakes engage, reversers may be used, and pilots steer with nose wheel till taxi speed. 7. Taxi and disembark. After slowing, pilots talk to ground control, and the cabin crew releases you when it's safe. Many useful links can be found in the description. Why do pilots sometimes go around instead of landing? A go-around is a safety maneuver, not a failure. It's like a driver reversing out of a muddy driveway rather than risking getting stuck. Reasons include unstable approach, too fast or too high, another aircraft or vehicle on the runway, sudden wind shear, or poor visibility at the last moment. Executing a go-around adds fuel burn and may cause a diversion if patterns or weather don't improve, but it's the safest option when conditions aren't right. Let's talk risks in plain numbers so you can appreciate trade-offs. If a flight performs a go-around and has to divert, passengers can face rebooking costs, overnight hotels, and delays. On short domestic routes, a diversion or overnight rebooking might add $0, $200 in incidental costs for most people, meals, taxis. Remote diversions or international diversions can push that into the $300, $1,500 range, depending on the airline and location. For airlines, diversions cost tens of thousands in fuel and logistics, which is why pilots don't choose them lightly. For baggage, sudden, heavy braking or rough touchdowns increase the risk of fragile items inside checked luggage being damaged. An estimated minor damage repair or replacement cost often ranges $50, $400 for common electronics or fragile items. The worst-case outcome if crews or passengers ignore safety steps is injury during an aborted landing, or in extreme cases, structural damage to the plane. Very rare, but why strict procedures exist. What's the cheapest, safest, and most practical solution for you as a passenger? First, keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated during descent and until the aircraft is parked with the chocks in place. Second, secure fragile items in your carry-on and place heavy items low under the seat. If you must gate check a bag because overhead space is tight, remove electronics or valuables before handing it over. Third, if you have a tight connection and see weather or delays announced, tell the gate agent before boarding. Sometimes airlines can rebook you in advance. A common misleading upsell tied to boarding and landing you'll hear about is priority boarding guarantees overhead bin space. That claim sounds attractive, but in many cases, priority boarding is a monetized convenience, not a guarantee. Overhead bin space is limited and distributed first come in the plane's boarding order. Some airlines prioritize certain customers by boarding group, but they can't promise a bin for every bag. To refuse that upsell, travel with a compliant under-seat bag or gate check a larger carry-on at no extra charge. Gate checking is free on many airlines, but can be presented as an optional paid service. Simply ask the agent and request a free gate check if overhead space is exhausted. Another subtle claim: buy Airline X's extra legroom seat to be first off. While you may exit sooner from the front rows, airlines often sell priority deplaning or paid fast-track disembarkation that only sometimes corresponds to actual exit order, especially when bridge availability or ground operations control who disembarks first. If you want to minimize missed connections, focus on earlier flight schedules or longer connection windows rather than relying on paid deplaning. If you feel nervous about landing noises or sensations, Remember, most sounds are normal. Gear doors, flap motors, and reverse thrust are loud but expected. If the plane makes a hard landing, the cabin crew will assess. Reporting anything damaged to the crew before you leave the aircraft is the fastest route to a claim. If you want more control as a passenger, choose middle seats near the wing for a smoother ride. Keep your seatbelt fastened and avoid standing during the last 10 minutes of approach. A quick checklist for the moment of landing: belt snug, tray up, seat upright, window shade up. It helps crew and emergency visibility. Electronics stowed or set to airplane mode per crew instructions, and carry-on zipped and secured. These simple steps reduce injury, prevent luggage damage, and speed up disembarkation. Pilots train regularly on approaches, unstable approaches, and go-arounds in simulators. The procedure is practiced until automatic. When you hear the captain say, "We're going around," think of it as the pilot choosing the safer route. When the seatbelt sign comes on, don't treat it as advice, treat it as an instruction. If you found this clear and useful, please like the video and subscribe for more practical explanations that remove the mystery from airline travel. Safe travels, and remember, a smooth landing is teamwork between the cockpit, crew, air traffic control, and you.